Hey guys, welcome back to another edition of Running with James. Today we're going to talk about the biggest HYROX mistakes we see beginners make. Now, after 5 years of running HYROX, after coaching hundreds of athletes from beginners all the way up to world championship qualifiers, what we have learned is that most people try to do too much too quickly. That's one of the biggest mistakes they make. And they don't have a training hard problem, they have a training with intentionality problem. So today we're gonna break those mistakes down, and by the end of this video, you'll know what you have to do to be best for your first HYROX. All right, so one of the biggest mistakes I see most athletes make when they start HYROX is simulations, okay? Now, I'm not telling you simulations are bad, but what I am saying is you need to do more than just going to a new gym every single week and doing simulations out the wazoo, okay? So simulations are great to get an idea of where you stand and give you kind of that feeling of the race, but it does not help you address the main issues. And so HYROX is not just 8 stations. We've heard that, I'm sure you've heard it. It's actually 9 stations. It's 8 stations that are consisting of strength training, endurance, whatever, but there's one particular station that's very repetitive, and that is running. Okay, and so I know the sled push is super sexy. I know the sled pull is really sexy. I know being able to do burpees faster than anyone else in the entire world is the most important thing, but it actually isn't, okay? The thing to understand is that when it comes down to the race, a lot of times people focus on the sled. They focus on the sled push. They focus on the sled pull because the weight is pretty heavy. For the open weight, for the men, you're talking 335 pounds. If you're doing pro weight, you're talking 450 pounds or so. Yes, that's pretty significant. And then with the surface that they use, it does make the sled feel heavier than it actually is. So what you're pushing at your local gym where they have the green turf or maybe they have concrete, you would have to stack that sucker up big time just to get that kind of race day feeling. But more so than that, understanding that getting on a sled and pushing a sled for 50 meters or 60 meters or whatever you push it for in training is not going to give you the exact feeling you're going to have in the race, because more than likely you're not actually going to be running the full distance, okay? So yes, you need to build strength. Yes, you need to push sleds. Yes, you need to do sport specific or event specific activities. But more than that, we need to be very intentional in how we train. So how do we do that? How do you go about being intentional and not just doing sims every single week? Well, you create a plan. You get get a piece of paper and write it down on Mondays, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, all the way to Sunday. These are the things I'm going to do. The first thing I would work on is your running, okay? No matter what, most people, especially people starting for HYROX, they don't run enough. Here's what I hear people tell me all the time. I don't run. I run 10 miles a week. If you're not doing that, then you're not gonna make it. You're gonna be struggling big time, okay? Yes, there are other aerobic things you can do, from skiing to rowing to biking. There are all types of things you can do to build your aerobic capacity to give you a good foundation, but you need to be running and you need to have a good volume or a good amount of aerobic fitness. Now, how do you do that? Well, you need to be running or doing some sort of aerobic activity at least 5 to 6 times a week, okay? Now, that doesn't mean you have to run every day, but you need to be getting in those aerobic activities to get your heart stronger. You can check out videos we've done before on how to do zone 2 training, what's gonna be the best ways to do it, so we're not gonna get into detail on that today, but you need to be doing aerobic fitness. You also need to address whatever imbalances you have. Here's a crazy thing. Did you know that on the sled push, the difference between the fastest and the slowest athletes on the sled push is only about a minute to a minute and a half? Now, that's a lot of time when you're talking about trying to shave off time off of your race. But if you go to the burpees, the difference between the fastest and the slowest time is more like the fastest times are going to be just under 2 minutes and the slowest times might be as much as 10 minutes. Fast forward all the way to the wall balls. Fastest times are maybe 3.5 minutes or so, whereas the slowest times, I've seen people go as long as 30 minutes on the wall balls. So if you improve on those specific things, you're gonna have a better overall race than just spending all your time pushing sleds. And so the biggest struggles I see people have oftentimes with those particular movements, like the burpees or the wall balls, is mobility, okay? And then endurance as well. And so if you train your endurance by doing aerobic activity, well then there's your first problem solved. The second issue is developing that mobility. When we get to the wall balls, you see people all the time, they're doing the hinging and they can't get their backsides low or their heels come off the ground. And so that means you're just not as effective as you could be in doing those movements. So working on your hip mobility, working on your ankle mobility, doing things like knees over toe, where you get that mobility in your ankle to be able to squat to depth and not get no reps, right? those are going to be important things that you want to work into your weekly schedule. And then doing event-specific activities. So maybe once a week you are doing some sort of compromised effort where you're running for a little bit of time and you're coming in and pushing sleds or skiing or doing wall balls. Or maybe you're riding the bike in between those same movements. So doing event-specific activities. If you do that, you're going to be much more prepared and you're going to do a lot better on that first race. Another huge mistake I see people make is their race pace plan, okay? Or their ultimate desire to run. I cannot tell you how many people I've been at the track, or even people come into some of the events and things that we do, and they're like, oh, my goal's sub 60. Okay, my goal's sub 60, my goal's sub 60. Everybody's goal is sub 60. So in marathons, in half marathons, there's a number that's kind of like a good overall number that a lot of people shoot for. For marathons, it's usually to go sub 4 hours. For a half marathon, it's usually to go sub 2 hours. Well, the reason that's such a benchmark is because that is above average. Most people running a half marathon are doing closer to 2.5 hours plus. Most people doing a marathon are doing 4.5 hours plus. So those are, you're talking average time. So when you go below those numbers, those are big benchmarks. Well, 60 minutes in HYROX is not the big benchmark. That is like upper echelon, almost elite level fitness if you're able to go under an hour. If you're going under an hour, you have a significant chance to qualify for the world championships, okay? So having an arbitrary number that I'm gonna go sub 60 when you haven't ever competed the race before is not very realistic, just to be honest with you, okay? So I think the average HYROX time is around, for a solo, is around an hour and a half or so, I think. For a doubles team, you're talking maybe 120, maybe a little bit below 120. So that's the average. So anybody that's going sub 70 is good, okay? If you are doing your first race and you do a 109 or a 110, you are crushing it. You are doing really well. And so understanding where, I guess a better way to put it is doing the event or training for the event based on your fitness rather than some arbitrary number that you heard, okay? Because the only thing that's gonna happen is you're gonna get out there and you're gonna fall flat on your face and you may never wanna do it again. So what does it take to run a sub 60? Well, let me give you some examples, right? So how do you base your running? Well, understanding that this is a 8-kilometer race broken up by individual events. So if you can run around a 4-minute kilometer, say 4 to 4:20 kilometer, okay? That means you're gonna be running for somewhere around 32 minutes or so, okay? 32 to 33 minutes. So if you're running for 32 to 33 minutes total, well, that means that if you're gonna run a sub 70, that means you only have just under 40 minutes left for your rock zone and for your workout stations, okay? So to run that, that means you need to be running a pace of about 7 to 7:15. So here's a great way to test yourself. Can you go out and run 6 miles or 10K without stopping at a 7 to a 7:15 pace? Can you do that? Can you run a half marathon? So a 13.1 mile distance, that means running without stopping at a 7 to 7:15 pace. If you're not at a current fitness level to be able to do that, the likelihood of you being able to go in and do that for HYROX is not gonna be very good, okay? Because here's what happens. As you run those 1Ks, fatigue sets in. Not necessarily just because of the running, but because you're running and you're pushing sleds. You're running and you're doing burpees. You're running and you're doing lunges. That race adds up big time. So my suggestion is go out and do a road race of some sort, whether it's a 5K or a 10K. Go out and do some of those interval workouts that you can be consistently hitting on a regular basis, and let that dictate what your ultimate goal pace is going to be rather than picking some arbitrary number. One of the last biggest mistakes I see a lot of athletes make is overtraining, okay? Now, what do I mean by overtraining? Well, you've got all these events you're trying to get ready for. You're trying to run, you're trying to push sled, you're trying to ski, you're trying to do wall balls, and you've got only 7 days to get all this stuff done, and you're trying to put it all together. And so I see a lot of people make the big mistake of overtraining. They're doing too much and they do too much too quickly. And ultimately they end up getting hurt. Actually have an athlete that I've been working with, and they're actually really fit. They're strong, fit individual. And they've raced several HYROX races. So if you were to talk to them, you would think that they're a HYROX pro, right? They've done like, I think 10 races or something of that nature. So they've done quite a few. And that's just in the last year and a half. So they've been getting it. And so they have seen progression after progression each and every race. But then one race they hit a plateau. They couldn't get any faster. And then after that, the races kept getting slower. And then all of a sudden they got hurt. Their knee was bothering them. Their ankle was bothering them. So what was happening is they were just doing a ton of hard training. They were doing simulations pretty regularly. They were running threshold efforts and intervals all the time. The only easy effort they had every week was their long run. And so that's where they would run zone 2 for 2 hours or something like that. So they're doing all of this volume, and most of the volume was as intense as their body would allow based off of their current fitness level, right? So in other words, they were probably too tired. They really probably couldn't go that hard on those efforts. So everything ended up being kind of the gray zone. They kind of be medium level efforts. So we always say the workout I do today sets me up for tomorrow. So if I do something that's really intense today, well, tomorrow and the next day probably needs to be a little more chill. It needs to be a little easier, zone 2, low intensity stuff, recovery work, so that when it's time for me to do something difficult again, I actually have the ability to do that. So we operate off of what we call the 80-20 principle. So what we say is 80% easy, 20% hard. We have a video, you can check that out as well. That kind of goes through that entire process. But when we say 80% easy, it means it's something that you could literally turn around and do again and not feel beat up. And then the 20%, the hard, that is where you are smashing your literal face. You're melting your face off. You're doing the whole CrossFit dramatic thing on the floor when you're all said and done. And so if you can limit overtraining, what you do is you stay consistent. What I tell people is consistency beats intensity, because intensity cannot stay consistent. Eventually, the load will be too much and it's gonna break your body down. Either fatigue is gonna set in, you're gonna plateau, or you're gonna get hurt and you're not gonna be able to keep training. And so by allowing ourselves the ability to recover, to do the easy pace stuff, we're building our aerobic capacity, we're building this really strong foundation so that when it's time to go fast or when it's time to do a hard compromised workout, we actually have the ability to be intense in that workout. And so I would structure it like this. If you are doing, let's say, 7 workouts a week, okay? So a lot of people, they'll train 7 days a week, maybe 6 days a week, whatever, with multiple training sessions in a day. If you're training, say, seven efforts a week, well, that means if we're operating off of that 80-20 principle, that means that, 5 of those efforts need to be easy and only 2 of those efforts could be hard, okay? And so you're thinking to yourself, well, how am I gonna get fit when I'm only doing 2 hard efforts a week? Well, the foundation you're building in those easy workouts is going to create the ability aerobically, with mobility, with flexibility and overall strength to set you up so that then it's time to when it's time to perform in the hard workouts, you can actually do that, okay? So if you're setting up a workout that's easy, that can be, you can lift weights and it not be a super hard workout. You can do that by maybe limiting the amount of time you're working, okay? So not being in the gym for 2 hours, maybe only there for like 30 minutes, including maybe an hour if you have a warm up and a cool down. You can do an easy effort by going out, getting on the bike and riding the bike for 30 minutes at a zone 2 effort. That is an easy effort. You can do an easy effort by basically going into the gym and doing strength training where maybe you're doing low reps, heavy weight, so you're developing specifically muscular strength, but you're not there doing 400 repetitions, okay? And so there are definitely things you can do that benefit your overall strength and fitness level, because remember, what we're doing here is we are working for performance. We're not working necessarily to get big, strong muscles and look like a bodybuilder. We are working for performance. And so if you're training for performance, that means you're training like an athlete. And so to train like an athlete, you have to be intentional with everything that you do. All right, guys, so if there's anything I would encourage you to do to just wrap this entire thing up is, number 1, be intentional with your training, okay? Don't just pick and choose. Don't pull your stuff off of Instagram and off TikTok. Yes, there may be some really good coaches out there, and yes, there are some really good coaches out there, but don't just pull from every single person just because they've done one HYROX race, okay? Get someone that knows what they're talking about. So be intentional. And maybe one of the best things you can do to be intentional is get you a coach. Get you someone, get in a group, whether it's a HYROX affiliate or a gym that's really good, or they've got banners all over the place, right? Get with someone who's done it before and has been really good at it and learn from them. But if you're not gonna do that, which you definitely should, you need to build an aerobic base of running and biking, skiing, swimming, whatever it is. You need to build a very large aerobic base. You need to do intentional training that is race specific. So you need to train on sleds, you need to do all that other stuff, but it doesn't need to be every single day, once or twice a week, okay? You need to run fast every now and again. to see what is the pace you're going to run so that you're not picking some arbitrary number, some fantasy number. You're actually creating a race plan that is going to be effective, that you can actually attain. And so that way you can be successful and you know how to grow. You do all these things, guys, I promise you're not only going to go out there and enjoy yourself so much more, but you're going to crush that race and you're going to be hooked on HYROX. So guys, thanks for coming in today. I appreciate it. If you haven't done so, if you enjoyed this content, please go down below, hit the like button and hit the share button. Comment if there's something you don't agree with me. If you think I don't know what the heck I'm talking about, let me know in the comments, and I would love to talk to you about this. I've been doing this for a while and I'm always learning and I'm willing to learn new things. So if you feel like I'm an idiot and I don't know what I'm talking about, I'd love to hear from you especially, okay? So thanks for coming in today, guys. You can check out our podcast as well. We drop a new episode every single week. Myself, Coach Lauren, we always have guests as well, guest hosts come on. We are talking training tips. We are talking life. We have a great time doing it, and you would be welcome to join us. If you want to support the show even more, you can go to our Patreon at patreon.com/runningwithjames, where you get additional content, some pretty cool things at the end of the year. And on top of that, you'll be supporting a really great community. So guys, remember, when you change your mind, you change life.